In today's video, I'm going to show you how I consult high-ticket clients and get the data to essentially put the balls in their court. And what I mean by that is traditionally in a done-for-you agency model, when shit hits the fan, basically, and they're not generating results, they immediately blame us, right? And it shouldn't be that way. Simply because this is a partnership, right? In order to grow, it really needs to be viewed as a collaborative effort from a marketing and owner's perspective to reach revenue goals, to reach new heights. And when you land a client that, one, demands the world, they're not paying you enough, right? First and foremost, but it's excuse after excuse after excuse. It's almost like you have a job, right? Or a boss. And what are we doing here? So in today's video, I'm going to give you some insider scoops on what I do to get data, like hard data, to go back to your clients to say, hey, we need to do this, and here is why based on the data. And if we do this, we can scale on demand with predictability. Really, what you should take away from this is at the end of this video, you will get ammunition, essentially, when you're doing your reporting calls or your consulting calls to say, hey, look, I'm in your back pocket. This is the data, for better or worse, but this is what we need to do in order to grow. Let's do it. The reason why, let me show this, and then we'll get into it. The reason why I believe some clients will leave you is because you guys just don't have the data, right? You often revert to like, oh, it's the targeting or it's the economy, you know what I mean? But here's the deal, right? This is local, especially if you're in B2B, you're a B2B consultant or you're a local marketing agency or a lead gen agency and you're doing local marketing. It's not hard, guys. It's pretty black and white, right? And we have a good track record here on generating seven-figure local businesses in our niche is medical aesthetics, a discretionary service. So let's just dive right into it. And really it comes down to, here's the secret. I use ChatGPT to do regression analysis based on the data that we're getting. And side note, I have my master's in marketing, and we had to do this like using, data models and statistical analysis. It's even easier here, at the time of this recording. It's 2024. I can only imagine if you're viewing this later on, like it's even easier. But I promise you, right? Even if you have just lead numbers and outgoing calls, and which is what we're going to do here, we can get data to paint the picture on what our clients need to do in order to generate results. So for context, I'm comparing four actual clients that I have. I've named them client A, client B, client C, client D, just because, for the sake of protecting, my own clients. But here's what we're going to do. I have a client that we generated from 0 to 185K a month at the time of when I was writing this initial prompt. It's actually closer to 200K a month. So let me actually change that right here to, actually they hit 195 last month. Or no, it was 198, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to compare client A to the three other clients that I have, and to see what the correlation between essentially crushing it to lead generation to outbound calls, right? So that's one of the things that we prioritize here with my consulting clients is, hey, look, right? And it's, there's more to it, like content creation, appealing to the psychographics of your ideal client. But this is just hard facts right now in terms of lead generation and outbound calls. What is the correlation between calling and not calling and, increasing sales and not, right? So we're going to compare client A to these three clients. So the prompt that I'm doing, and you guys can emulate this here, is I'm trying to determine how many calls clients should make to generate sales, such as how many calls per lead, per day, et cetera, right? To really make an impact and drive sales. So I'm giving client A and client B data here. So client A, we took them to $198,000 a month, and these are April numbers. So leads, we generated 249, outbound calls 592. Client B, we also took them from 30 to 60K a month, but it's a little less here on the outgoing, right? So I just want to see the correlation. 230 leads to 388. The two additional clients are just starting, so we don't have revenue data, but I still want to see like what should they do, right? Based off of the correlation with client A. So for client C and D, we don't have revenue data, but I would like you to still compare calls per lead per day in relation to lead generation and outgoing calls. I want to get a solid plan to increase sales like client A. Additionally, I'd like you to come up with, I'd like you to develop a plan of action for clients B, C, and D to emulate client A's success, right? So you guys can, pause the video, scroll backwards, right? I'll leave it right here. Pause the video if you want to copy this, okay? Pause the video if you want to copy this, all right? And then we're going to move forward. So let it analyze. So as you can see, it's extrapolating the data so I have ammunition to be like, hey, we're not calling enough. One, because it's one thing to say like, you guys got to call, and then like, what does that mean? And then they get pissed off. But it's, hey, we got to call because here is a comparison to some other clients that we have. And if we make these calls, we can anticipate getting X amount of sales, especially if you have revenue data. So that's how we scale on demand with predictability, right? So it actually gives recommendations on what C and D should do, right? So if I go to calculate calls per lead, so client A is doing what? 2.38 calls per lead. Client B is doing 1.69. So what I can see here is like, hey, client A and client B are generating this, similar leads, and you wouldn't know this by looking at this, but client A and client B are offering similar services, or actually the same service. They're just in different states, so it's not apples to apples. But I can say, hey, if we want to reach, $198,000 a month, or even like, hey, let's break the 100K a month mark. All I'm asking you to do is increase calls per lead by a little bit, right? 1.6, you're at 1.69. I want the threshold that we should strive to is 2.38, right? Same thing for these guys. These guys are just starting, so the threshold that I'll hold them accountable to is 2.38. And look at it here. So they're making almost 200K a month. Calls per day is basically 27, right? So if client B wanted to emulate that success, I would say, hey guys, obviously there's more to it in terms of appointment setting and scripting and all that stuff, but let's control what we can control, right? And even if we increased calls per day from 17.64 to 26.91, our front desk staff will have more chances at bat to appointment set for our high ticket services. And as they're getting more reps, naturally they'll improve, but we'll also help with the scripting too, right? So that's a clear way of saying like, hey, you're not calling enough. And then also client C and client D, we can say, hey, we're essentially not calling at all, right? So we need to pick it up if we want to say, hey, the barometer for success for a 60K a month clinic is 17 basically 17.64 calls per day. The barometer for 198 is 26.91. And the reason why I could say that too is I do run a medical aesthetic, consulting agency or consulting firm, and pretty much all of these clients are running the same or similar offers, right? So these are the barometers of success that I can see. So the analysis that it spits out, I could also communicate here. So recommendations for clients B, C, and D: increase outbound calls, right? So aim to match or exceed client A. For client B, increase the number of calls per lead from 1.69 to 2.38. For clients C and D, right, significantly increase the outgoing calls. So I'm not going to bore you too much with these analytical numbers, but you can see here it's giving statistical analysis data, so you can pinpoint a blueprint or plan to get your clients to specific revenue numbers, especially if you already have a client that's already crushing it, you have that data. And especially if you're niche down, right, to a consulting niche, and in this instance, it is, medical aesthetics, we can say, hey, here's the barometer of success for, say, hey, if you want to reach 60K a month at your clinic, right, clients C and D, this is the threshold for success. If you want to exceed that and say 100K a month to 200K a month, this is the barometer for success. So if I were to consult C and D, and actually I'm going to say this to them, is, hey, we just got to pick it up. At the very least, control what we can control, and go from there. Hopefully that helped, and hopefully gave you some insights on how we consult our clients. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.